Errol Spence fights like a Mexican fighter, says Raul Marquez. Also, he picks Errol Spence to defeat Terrence Bud Crawford. Find out how it went down in this video. Stay tuned. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Link in the description. Boxing Hall of Fame weekend. They did an interview with Raul Marquez, and I'm just going to paraphrase, but the link is in the description so you guys can listen to it in its entirety. Raul Marquez, he's from Texas. He says he knows Derek James well. He remembers, knows him. They were both on the junior Olympic team together. And he says he was talking about how he's blessed to be in the industry so long. He says his birthday's coming up. He's about to be 51 years old, and he's doing great work with Showtime. He says he can't wait for the fight. He said he's looking forward to Crawford versus Spence fight. And he paid a lot of respect to both fighters, but he did pick Errol Spence Jr. Now, he works with Showtime. Again, he was talking about how he's been with Showtime for 10 years. And, I'm not saying he has the inside plug for sure, but what I do know is they're talking about making the fight for Showtime, and it's been prolonged and, dragging on and dragging on. And he said something very interesting to me. He says, Errol Spence is ready to go. We're waiting on Terrence Bud Crawford. So take it for what what you want. That's what he said. And again, he was just talking about how he had worked for Showtime for 10 plus years, doing the translations, doing the live commentary. And it's a joy and a pleasure being in boxing still. And that's the network that's talking about getting the fight, Spence versus Crawford. So it's pretty telling to hear basically a Showtime employee say we're waiting on Crawford. A lot of people are speculating. I don't want to speculate, but we've heard the rumors about Terrence Crawford wants more money possibly and things like that. I just hope the fight gets done, because it'll be a bad look. Terrence Crawford was in the water saying, Errol, where you at? I'm looking for you. And, this type of stuff. And he's stated he wanted the fight, and now he's a free agent. Seemingly there's no roadblocks to prevent the fight from happening. So it would be a shame if for some reason it didn't happen. So I'm going to stay optimistic, even though it's taking perhaps longer than what is expected. And we are running out of time if they're planning on fighting in November, like previous reports suggest. But another interesting commentary from Raul Marquez. He's picking Errol Spence. He says that Errol Spence is a dog. Errol Spence is a grinder, and he fights like a Mexican. So anytime you have a Mexican fighter and somebody who's prideful of their heritage, and they're paying that, they're obviously paying homage to Errol Spence's tenacity, his durability, and his break you down style. Now, I have an interview that I did with Errol Spence in Las Vegas. I believe it was Edislandi Lara versus Jared Hurd, just to put you in the mindset. And it's an older interview where Errol Spence, he was talking about his style, and he told me, and I have it all on camera, and you can find the video on YouTube, but he said that his previous coach before Derek James, when he was younger, was a Mexican guy and a Mexican coach. And he says in the gym, there were a lot of Hispanic, a lot of Latino, and a lot of Mexican fighters. So that's what he grew up like, sparring different people, but a lot of his sparring partners and people he was sparring were Mexican people. He was in Texas. So that probably explains why he fights exactly how he fights, because you're blood, sweat, and tears, iron sharpens iron. And there's a lot of rugged fighters in general in Texas. Definitely a lot of black, white, Mexican fighters. So Errol Spence got that seasoning. And now you hear a Mexican, fast forward years later, after Errol Spence revealed this on my channel, fast forward years later, you have a Mexican fighter who very, articulate and does his thing with the commentary, and he's giving props to Errol Spence and saying, man, he got that same type of Mexican style, and it's funny because, I don't want to get too deep down a different rabbit hole because I want to give you guys the news, but I want to give you some of my opinions. But one of the things that I find is funny is you have a black fighter and you have Raul Marquez, great fighter, former fighter or whatnot, and he's saying that Errol Spence fights like a Mexican. But you had Triple G, Gennady Golovkin, hell no, guys, hey, Max, right? And he coined this whole like phrase of Mexican style, and he don't even fight like that. You know what I mean? I could think of 1,000 other fighters, either actually Mexican or not Mexican. Like James Kirkland, he has more of a Mexican style than Triple G, Errol Spence, and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? Gervonta Davis. Like there's a lot of people who have that. And I don't, me personally, I don't believe in the Mexican style because I don't think all Mexican fighters fight one way. Canelo fights his own way. Marquez, Marco Antonio Barrera, Orlando Salido, Miguel Vasquez. You know what I mean? There's no one way. Miguel Vasquez doesn't fight like Orlando Salido. You know what I mean? Or Jorge Arce or Julio Cesar Chavez or Salvador Sanchez. So there's no one way. So I don't really too much believe in, you know, that coined phrase. But for lack of a better word, we know the legendary Mexican fighters and what they're praised for. And it's praised for chin and offense and ability and body snatcher and body shots and, you know, the kind of that grit to get through tough moments and keep trucking and keep persevering. So it's definitely Raul paying a compliment to Errol Spence Jr. But it's just funny to see. I don't really hear many other people outside of Raul, shout out to him, saying that. And it is actually true. If we're coining Mexican style as this and that, Errol Spence is closer to that than Triple G ever has been in terms of his style. Because you look at Triple G, if he can't mow you down, he just works behind the jab, and that's literally all he does. Floyd Mayweather told you years ago, Triple G, he cool, but he basic, no special effects. So I wanted to make that clear. Interesting that Raul Marquez is picking Errol Spence Jr. I find that a lot. I find a lot of people were saying this, that, and the third. There were a lot of people picking Crawford. And as we get close to the fight possibly being a reality, I see people jumping ship. And it's just funny in boxing how this works. Another big fight, you know, the biggest fight ever was Manny Pacquiao. I want to promote, you know, versus Floyd Mayweather. And I seen the same behavior. People said Floyd was definitely afraid of southpaws and Pacquiao's speed and power, and he's a whirlwind. Floyd won't be able to keep up. But then when the fight was looking like it was close to actually happening, you seen Floyd Mayweather, and he was at the Miami Heat game, shaking Pacquiao's hand, exchanging phone numbers in the hotel room with Pacquiao. And even after that, you know, Les Moonves and all these people were getting involved trying to make the fight. And once reality was setting in, you've seen a lot of people jump ship, and I've seen that. I've seen a lot of people say Errol Spence is a coward and he don't want it and boom, and he's ducking Crawford. But then as we get closer to this thing actually possibly happening, or at least the purported date of November, December, now I see people backing off the blocks. It's just funny how that works in boxing. But shout out to Raul Marquez. He said some good things. He gave his opinion, and I think he was fair. He didn't say anything negative about, and this is, hopefully I can bring this to light in videos like this, is shout out to Raul Marquez. It was an objective approach. Like he didn't say anything negative about Crawford. He just told you what separates Errol Spence and why he's picking him. Versus you get on the internet and then people act like it's celebrity death match and you have to hate Errol Spence if you're picking Crawford, or you have to hate Crawford if you're picking, but that's not a reality. It's pugilism. It's the sweet science, fisticuffs. So people, you know, we should be able to objectively critique. That's what I do on my page. You know what I mean? When I give you a fight prediction, it's nothing personal. I'm just giving you, based on what I've seen from both individuals, male or female, this is who I think will win. So shout out to the real boxing fans, guys like Raul Marquez. He said Crawford's a beast. You know, I take nothing away from him. But another thing he said is Errol Spence has been involved in the bigger caliber fights and the bigger fights, which is something that, guess who else told you? That's right, the great Ego Stradamus. And I agree with that. Crawford, you know, he's done his thing and he's been in multiple weight classes, but the bigger events, the 40,000, 50,000 people in attendance and 30,000 in attendance and bigger events and unifications, Crawford has zero unifications at this current juncture. at welterweight versus Errol Spence has several. Errol Spence went to Sheffield, Kell Brook's backyard, and so on and so forth. So let me know what you guys think of Raul Marquez. You can watch the interview, link in the description. Also subscribe to my channel if you like boxing news. I'm the plug. So come get yours. And I'm out. Introducing Super Thanks. Right here on the official Boxing Ego YouTube. Super Thanks allows you, the viewers, to show a little bit of extra gratitude, which enables me as a full-time content creator to push out the content you need in the world of boxing. Underneath all the videos, you will see a heart with the $sign in it. You can enter any amount that you find suitable as a super thanks. A brand new, interactive, and colorful way to get your comments highlighted and noticed by not only myself, but other people on the YouTube platform. Super thanks, a unique and cool way to show and applaud us full-time content creators. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Super thanks. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation.